A Russian missile strike on an apartment building in Dnipro has left at least 40 people dead, making it one of the deadliest single attacks of the war. Ukrainian authorities report that it was caused by a cruise missile. The current wave of attacks on civilian targets comes at a make-or-break moment in this long and vicious war. Despite earlier Russian claims of victory, Ukraine says there is continued fierce and ongoing fighting for the Russian town of Soledar near Bakhmut. And Kyiv fears that Putin will find some excuse to try to re-invade from the north. The military warns that combat air drills that began today between Russia and Belarus present a clear danger. Meanwhile, more Western allies, including Britain, France and Poland, promise to send Kyiv tanks and other advanced weapons. But is it happening fast enough to help Ukraine defend itself against a feared Russian offensive this spring? Igor Zhovka is a top aide to President Zelensky and his chief diplomatic advisor, and he's joining me now from Kyiv. Welcome to the program. As we speak, Mr. Zhovka, your rescue crews are still digging out that apartment building in Dnipro. Do you know the number of dead? Do you think it'll go higher?
Unfortunately, Christiana, we can predict that the number of dead will go higher. As of now, it's 40 already officially reported dead and more than 70 wounded. But almost 40, their whereabouts are not yet found. And right you are, rescue teams are working already for the third day after this tragic catastrophe. And unfortunately, the results could be even worse.
So this was, according to your military analysis, a cruise missile sent from Russia. Do you expect that to be the norm? Do you expect more of that against those kind of civilian and residential buildings? I mean, they've done and they continue to do infrastructure, but do you see it moving now towards actual civilian residences and such?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's moving that awful way. Having been not able to achieve any success on the battlefield, they started to ruin our energy infrastructure, critical energy infrastructure, starting from October, thinking of to freeze us throughout the winter time. Now, when they're in the middle of winter, they haven't successed in this goal practically, because we managed to restore. So now they are moving their tactics into hitting directly the multi-story buildings, the private households, using these kind of missiles, right you are, that are really next to impossible to intersect with the air defense system we are now in possession. Because had we had enough more sophisticated Western type air defense and anti-missile systems, would be able to intersect more of them. But having what we have is unfortunately the reality. So that's why my president is tirelessly talking to the world leaders. He practically started to do it on the first day of the new year, having like more than 30 phone conversations with the world leaders. And item number one in those conversations was weapons, weapons, and weapons.
What kind specifically of anti-missile defense do you need? Is it the Patriots? We know now that they are, Ukrainian teams are being trained on them by the United States. They're coming to you. Would that make a difference in this particular case, this kind of missile?
Absolutely, because Patriot system, and by the way, our soldiers they're really smart and quick, and they don't need that lengthy training as we were told in the beginning. But right you are, the Patriot system is a medium-range system compared to a short-range system of some Western countries who already supplied it to us, like Irish, like other types of systems, like Crotal, for instance. But this type of system, Patriot, is a medium-range system, being able to intersect the targets on a more lengthy distance. That's why, in the case of the missile you mentioned, this system would have intersected this type of missile. So that's why we're really thankful for the US and to some other countries who already declared delivering such types of air defense systems, but definitely need more in order to at least defend each major city of Ukraine and each major energy infrastructure object in Ukraine.
So the British Foreign Secretary today told Parliament, actually the Defence Secretary told Parliament, that a whole new level of NATO and Western aid needs to be given to Ukraine at this sort of make or break moment. He went very, very specific. It requires a new level of support, combat power, which can only be achieved by combinations of main battle tank squadrons operating alongside divisional artillery groups and further deep precision fires, enabling targeting of Russian logistics and command nodes at greater distance. That is from Ben Wallace, himself a military man formerly, now the defense. That's very detailed. You know, they're saying that they need whole new battle formations. Are you getting, is that what you need?
Yes, absolutely right. You know, to put it more simply, not in that sophisticated manner as wonderful person, really an expert and really a professional in this sphere, Mr. Wallace told, is very simple. We need this main triad of weapons. Apart from air defense system, which we already talked to you about, this is artillery systems, and not only artillery systems themselves, definitely, or Western artillery systems, but the ammunition to them. We badly need the ammunition because we are running out of the ammunition of the Soviet times. And thirdly, it's armored vehicles and tanks. And here's very importance of moves which the UK side has already made, some of our European partners has made about battle tanks, but unfortunately we still lack the courage from some countries to move this, you know, final decisive step. So that's why we're counting on the Ramstein meeting in the end of this week, where more than 50 ministers of defense will get together, including Minister of Defense of Ukraine, and really count on the decisive steps and actions to be made during this meeting in order to help Ukraine not only to withstand the current attacks of Russia, but to make a counterattacks and counteroffensive immediately.
So do you believe then, I think you're calling out Germany, which has not yet taken a public decision like other European allies to send its Leopard tanks, and also has not yet given official permission to other countries which have those same tanks to send them to you, even though they're willing to do so, such as Poland. Do you believe this Ministry of, you know, the US Secretary of Defense, as you said, your own, others are going to be meeting? What do you think? You're the diplomatic advisor. Do you have any, you know, any hint that Germany will come through like the other countries have?
You know, tomorrow, very important day, the anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations between Germany and Ukraine. So a symbolic day, just to mention. But right you are. I have a cautious optimism about the decision, including on the country you mentioned, to be taken this Friday during the Ramstein meeting, because really we have a lot from Germany, and not only from Germany, but sometimes, you know, you need to make this very important decision to gain the momentum. Like, remember, it was happening with the air defense system. Someone has to be first, and then you follow them. So we would like Germany to make this very important step.
It appears, and again, you're the diplomatic advisor, that any idea of any negotiations or some kind of light at the end of the tunnel in terms of a peace deal is just so far off. That's what it appears like. So I want to ask you what you make of President Putin telling President Erdogan of Turkey that it's all because, you know, Western and NATO weapons, they're prolonging this. They've already blamed the Dnipro building attack on a Ukrainian, you know, supplied missile defense system, saying that it was your missiles, defense systems that went into that building. What do you make of Putin's conversation with Erdogan?
You know, it's traditional false narrative. I mean, I can name you. You might mention also this usual Russian narrative that this is Ukraine who doesn't want peace, Ukraine who wants war. Imagine Ukrainians who are dying day by day, night by night, being wounded, and they don't want to have peace. Or President Zelensky, who is striving for peace, who is talking about this from the first days of war, doesn't want peace. We suggested a very simple way out. 10 points peace formula. President suggested it to many of the world leaders. And I haven't heard anything against this peace formula from any single world leader. Well, except probably one you just mentioned now, President Putin himself. He doesn't want even to talk about this. Very simple formula with 9 points being the points of depriving Russia of aggressive instruments, not only on the battlefield, because depriving all of us from food supply from Ukraine is also aggression. Making environmental disaster by means of war is also aggression. Etc. But even ruining the statute of UN is also an aggression. So let's combine our efforts together. That's what my president tells to the world leaders. And that would inevitably bring us to peace, because any war, any victory ends up at the negotiation table.
Igor Zhovka, Chief Diplomatic Advisor, thank you so much indeed for joining us.